building a team that can take your business to the next level with Tom Antion on today's episode of the Serve No Master podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Namecheap. There is no better option when it comes to buying your domain names. I've been a customer for more than a decade, and it's been a dream experience. Secure your new business name today at servenomaster.com. Namecheap.
Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Serve No Master podcast, where you'll learn how to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Serve No Master podcast. I'm so excited to have Tom here today. We're going to talk about systems, scaling, processes for growing your business. And this is a really important step that we often don't think about when we're starting our business. We don't record our processes. We don't write down our steps. We go, it's all in here. The problem is when we go to hire someone, it's very hard to pass that information on because we've kind of collected it like a master expert, the kind of way we built cars 100 years ago. And we want to start to learn the process where we can pass it on to other people. So I'm really excited to have you here today. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm thrilled, man, especially to talk to somebody that owns their own island like Johnny Depp or something. What?
I wish I owned the whole island. I just live here, but it was always my dream. You know, when I started building an online business, a lot of my friends then went back to offices, started hiring employees, and they all work out of offices now. I said, I thought the whole point of this was to not have an office. So that's really what's always driven me. But I'm really excited to talk to you about some of the things you're passionate about. And one of the things you mentioned that's interesting to me is that you're passionate about helping people with disabilities, help people build scholarships, and show people that things are possible. So I'd really love to start talking about that because that gets me really excited.
Yeah, well, basically I've never had a job, and you talk about working from home. I've never not worked from home. In fact, 44 years working from home. And I actually owned a nightclub. It was the second biggest nightclub in the state. I'm in the United States. And I actually lived above the nightclub. So technically I had a nightclub in my basement. Right?
Wow.
So yeah, I'm all about this. But, as I've, progressed, I could have really retired 22 years ago. I hit multi-millionaire status about the year 2000, but I'm just totally crazy about doing this. And what would I do? So all along, I've always thought that the internet has made great possibilities for persons with disabilities, because not only can they learn from home, they can work from home. And they say no good deed goes unpunished, right? So I start this program. I have the only licensed dedicated internet and digital marketing school in the United States. And probably the world, I imagine. So I opened this program for scholarships for persons with disabilities. Well, the first two people that applied were blind. I wasn't thinking this. I was thinking physical, they don't have an arm or they can't walk, and so that changed the whole thing. But I've got two of the people in the program that are doing better videos than I do, and they're blind. And so very inspiring. But I had to really grow and learn about accessibility and things. And there's going to be a lot of lawsuits in the United States for sure on websites that aren't accessible. So we're really having to up our game with the accessibility stuff. But it's so thrilling to see these people because, when I've been working at home for 28 years since the internet started. I was on there right at the beginning. And now the COVID hit, people are like, oh, you can work from home. I didn't know that. So it's becoming more mainstream, but I'm just thrilled to be able to help these people.
Yeah. When I grew up, a lot of my friends were deaf. I went to college near DC where Gallaudet is the big deaf college. And most people are taught if you're born deaf or blind or with most disabilities, they're like, hey, you get on government assistance and that's it for life. And it's really exciting to see that the internet's the great equalizer. Now there's opportunities where you can do amazing things. We all hear the stories of people that went from homeless to successful online or from out of jail to successful online. And it's because you don't need a huge amount of money to start. I remember my sister was like, oh, I want to open a store. And I was like, well, how much does that cost? And the numbers are astronomical. And the goal for like a physical store in fashion or grocery store is 3 to 5% profit for a year. And I was like, what? I would, if I only made a 3%, if I put in $100, made 103, I'd be so upset on a project.
I know.
I'd be devastated at the loss. Like, and it's this entirely different world where I'm not as quite, maybe you're a little older than me, I'm not sure, but when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, I'm 41 now. So, but I remember if you wanted to start a business, you go to the bank and you had to have a huge business plan and you ask for a $25,000 loan. And that's how you started the business. Now you don't have to spend a huge amount of money. You don't have to get someone's permission and you don't have to start with so much debt, but that's the old traditional model. And then it's like, you're hoping to make 3% of that back every year. And I guess in 30 years, you break even. But
that's crazy. Now I'm happy that those people exist when I want to go buy something in the store, but none of my students are going to go that way. And thank you for the compliment. I just turned 67 this past July. So I think I got you beat a little bit there. But yeah.
Yeah.
The 97% profit when you're in the digital world. See, I started selling ebooks back around 2000 or maybe 99. And it's 97% profit, just a little credit card or PayPal fees or all the new places they got now, Zelle and Stripe and all that. But you can mess up really bad and still make money at 97% profit.
Yeah. The thing about the physical world, like one of my neighbors here, he owns a restaurant. And when he told me that, my heart started racing because that's my coolest type of business to own, scariest type, because you have to guess every day how many people are going to order chicken, how many people are going to order pizza, how many people order burgers. If you don't have enough, people are mad. And if you order too much, you lose the money on that. And that terrifies me. So that's such a world that's so different.
I lived that for 6 years. And not only that, I'd go out at the dumpster late at night and there'd be a case of cheese sitting out there that some employee put out there that's going to pick it up and take it home after work. So, and then not only that, I was in 2 gunfights and knife fights. This was in West Virginia. I know you are from the United States, so you know the reputation of West Virginia. And there was one sheriff and one state police for 300 square miles. And the 2 gunfights we had, John, the sheriff comes out the next day. I laugh about it now, but I mean, I lived in very much high danger for 6 straight years. But the sheriff came out the next day and he said, "Hey, Tom, I heard you had some excitement out here." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Anybody get hurt?" I said, "Well, they didn't hit me. I don't know. I haven't seen those guys." He thought about it for a second. He said, "All right, be safe. Take it easy." That was the whole investigation. Those 2 gunfights.
Yeah, it's just another reason why working online is so powerful. And like you said, so many people, like when I started online in 2010 and when I started traveling the world in 2013, they were like, "No, you need an office. You need the security of a job." How many people have found out job security is a myth? Like as soon as the chips are down, your boss is like, "Oh, sorry, we got to let you go." And even like companies, I remember I listened to an interview with a company that's like, "Oh, at the start of the pandemic, we had to let a bunch of our employees go. And then it was our most successful year ever." And I was like, "Well, that's not cool.
Right.
That's awful." Like you're celebrating. I was like, why did you didn't need to fire everyone if it was your best year ever. But that's the thing is that we have this sense, and I think it comes from education, right? We're taught to limit our creativity, believe going into a job. And for me, when I graduated college, I said, I'm so excited because I remember the recruiter said, "As soon as you graduate, we'll help you get a good job." So I go into the office to help you get jobs. I look around. I'm
Starbucks.
Like, everyone here went to school. I wish. They go, "Oh, here's a link to a new website called monster.com. They got a ton of cool jobs. Good luck." And they didn't help me with my resume. And I looked around. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone here went to college here. There are people that never left campus. It's the same as the tour guides. And I was like, oh, you've never been in the real world. You guys, you're the ones who couldn't get a job. And that was when I realized that we are told all these stories, right? That like other people are going to help us or they'll help you find a job, but they don't. And you get a job at Starbucks, they go, "Okay, that's another person who got a job after college." And it's like, well, what did college do?
That's a total disingenuous thing that the colleges are putting out. Even law schools got sued here in the United States for lying about their graduation and placement rate, because a lot of the people that graduated law school, several $100,000 in debt, got jobs, but had nothing to do with a law degree. But the law schools still put that on their thing is, "Oh yeah, they got a job." Oh, great. They're competing for jobs at Starbucks.
Yeah, they take credit when they didn't even help you. And that's really the thing. I find education, it's so expensive now. Like education has grown. I think the price of education since 1980 has gone up 2,000%, while inflation's only gone up like, I think 10% of that. So it's just education's massively expensive. Harvard's has the most cash in the bank of any company in America. They have like 10 times more money than Apple, who I thought was the richest company, 10 times more money than Tesla. They have $54 billion just in cash, not including their investments, just sitting in a saving account. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I should start a university. And what's interesting is that, I sell education, we sell education courses. It's $1,000 or $2,000. And people go, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make my money back. I'm like, did you make your money back when you put $200,000 into college? And now I think college is $1 million. I have 4 kids.
College ripoff quiz on my site. And the things that they're doing, I'm also a consumer advocate. I have a TV show in development in Hollywood called Scam Brigade, because I go after bad, there's so many scammers online, it's pretty easy to find one. But the college people would be in jail if they weren't colleges. They're playing games with the textbooks, so you have to buy retail and you can't resell them. Inflating grade point averages to make it look like they're doing a better job. However, the testing is showing that the people are dumber, but they have a higher grade point average. So that's just 2 of the 7 things I have on the quiz. But yeah, so I'm against that. I mean, in my school, $19,000 retail. And then if you're a military, first responder, nurse, and there's one other category we have, a 50% scholarship. And then you actually have a skill in 6-7 months to go out and get started and actually make money. So yeah, I'm totally against the world has been brainwashed for higher education for a long time.
Yeah. And I meet people with degrees, like a social media degree, and they're always the worst at social media. And I say, yeah, it's kind of like when I meet someone who did social media for a big company that doesn't track results. I said, oh, we don't do that. If you do social media for me, we have to see follower gains. We have to see sales. It has to work. You can't just post ironic stuff for Wendy's for my company, because we're actually a profit-driven company. And it's interesting. Legacy companies don't understand social media at all. They spend huge amounts of money on advertising. There's the whole thing now about what percentage of people on Twitter are bots. I've never met a person who uses Twitter. I don't know anyone who, I don't know why people on the news think it's news. I find that fascinating. And I'm like, it's probably all bots. I certainly don't use Twitter.
That's how they communicate, but yeah, it doesn't mean any money in my bank account. That's the bottom line. So, yeah, and you can swing a dead cat, we say, and run into a social media expert, but, and I don't look that great on social media, I got to tell you. But here's the reason. Everybody at my level, the money is in email. So everything I do is to get people the heck off of social media onto my email list that I control, because Mark Zuckerberg can turn one dial and, you disappear off the face of the earth. So I call it a necessary evil, all the social media, because it's they own everything. Well, I don't operate. I didn't work, 7 days a week for all these years to have them get richer. So email is still king in my book.
You're preaching to the choir. I have the exact same conversations. I was in a book deal with a major publisher, and they go, how many Twitter followers do you have? And I go, I don't like where this conversation is going. It's like, you're in a conversation with someone and you suddenly realize you're trying to do a 7-figure deal with a moron. Because there's no worse way to assess the value of a company than their Twitter followers. I can't, I was like, that's literally the worst metric I've ever heard of. I was like, do you care how many customers I have in my database or subscribers? He goes, no, we don't care about that. And I said, wait, what? I said, do you care about revenue or gross sales or any of those things? He goes, no, Twitter followers. And I said, oh boy.
That's why they're failing like crazy. They're dropping like flies, the major publishers. I had one major publishing book out of 25 books I've written. And it was the worst. Yeah. It was an internet book, and it was 18 months from the time I dropped the manuscript to the time it showed up, which it was obsolete before it went on sale. So I could have made hundreds of thousands just blowing them off, even though I got a great big advance. It was just a nightmare because they're just too slow. People like you and I can, make decisions on a dime.
Yeah, that's one of the places people get lost. I think it's a form of prestige. They want to say they're with a publisher, They want to say who wrote the foreword. It's the same thing. Sometimes there's things that we do in business because we want to tell our parents we did it, or we think it makes us sound better. Like, oh, if I have a doctor in front of my name, even though it's like a doctorate and something completely irrelevant to what I do. You see all these people that do that all the time. Everyone calls them doctor, and you think they're a medical doctor, like a doctor of education. It's not the same, unfortunately. But we get, and it's like, well, you paid $500,000 to have people call you doctor. And then I've met people who go, oh, doctor's just my nickname. I was like, you could do that? Like, what a savings.
Yeah, I got the telephone doctor just wears a lab coat and then has a big business on teaching people phone skills.
And everyone calls me, Dr. Telephone. And it's so fascinating. We get caught up. Yeah. Like, oh, I want to be, because I've done a lot in self-publishing. That's where I built a lot of my career. And a lot of people go, oh, I'd want to be with a traditional publisher. I said, well, how long have you been sending out manuscripts? 10 years. I got some bad news. And my favorite story is that 17 publishers read Harry Potter and said, this is trash, and said no. And all 17 of those people still have their jobs. And I have a rule in my company. If you lose me $1 billion, you're instantly fired. Like,
that's a good rule to have.
How could you?
They did the same thing a long time ago with Gone with the Wind. They submitted it, and it got rejected everywhere. It's better to keep things in-house where you're in control of things. That's what we're all about. People like you and I are just, we want to be in control because we make decisions based on logic, common sense, and that's these big companies. I mean, I can't, they don't really like me because I got Best of the Web in Inc. magazine for a website that cost at the time $650, and it beat 3 other $1 million websites. And the panel of CEOs that were doing the evaluation said, well, why'd this guy win? Well, the site was easy to navigate and we could find what we wanted quickly. That's all they cared about, and so big companies really don't like me. They have to take a 2-week committee meeting to like take a leak or something, so that's not my thing.
Yeah, that's, in my experience, the biggest problem. As a company gets bigger, the decision-making gets slower. Like when I talk to people that are in business,
and there's more idiots involved all along the way.
Yeah, they talk about like a 3-year buying cycle, and education and medical. It's like, oh, I've been dealing with the hospital. We've been working on a deal for 2.5 years. What? What if, like, imagine, right? There's a new life-saving device. The hospital's like, we're going to think about this for 3 years. What? Why does it take so long? And that's the advantage of being a smaller company, is our agility, our ability to adapt and make big decisions. And a lot of times people think the answer to problems is money, but you often don't know. I remember I was at a meeting where all these guys were members of a really expensive mastermind. You had to be a millionaire to join. And I talked to a guy. I said, well, how much do you pay for an opt-in page? He goes, oh, it starts at $25,000. I go, I want to be your opt-in page guy. Because I know you're paying 50 times markup. I said,
exactly.
I was like, did you used to work in the space shuttle program? Were you the guy that was buying
the hammers?
Gravity hammers and the pen that works in space instead of the pencil the Russians use. And that's the problem, is that money, and that's the equalizer, I guess, is that money's not always the solution, because sometimes people put a lot of money. I remember one of my first clients 12, 13 years ago, cool music store, their website was amazing, really looked cool, all these features. Unfortunately, it was built entirely in JavaScript, which means Google couldn't see it. They wouldn't appear in any search results. And they spent a lot of money. And I go, guys, I got good news and bad news. The good news is your website's the coolest website I've ever seen. The bad news is no one else will ever see it.
No.
And it's so devastating because they didn't know, right? You don't know you've done something wrong because it looks amazing. But JavaScript's whole deal is that they like password, or they like scramble the code so no one can read it. I was like, yeah, it's cool. No one can steal my website, but also no one can find it. And that's really what's devastating, is that we think we have to spend a huge amount of money, or we lack agility. But I do want to talk. We've gone down a rabbit hole because you're so interesting. I love chatting with you. I'm having a really good time. But I would love to talk a little bit about the process of scaling, or the process of how to recruit people, because this is something that I run into a lot. I'll give you an example right now. I'm working on a massive TikTok campaign. It's going really well for me. I have a very small number of TikTok followers. I found 3 people in their early 20s that are geniuses at it. Mm-hmm. They're really good at one thing. They're amazing at it. And we're partnering together because they have a lot of skills, but they don't know how to build products. They don't know how to do the launch part and build an email list. I'm like, oh, I know how to do that. And their excitement is so infectious. But there's this idea, being an expert at TikTok or being an expert at social media, is really hard, but it's actually, in my opinion, it's a commodity because there's tons of people under 18 or under 25 that are really, really good at that stuff and findable. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your thoughts about how do you find these people? What's the right approach? Because I've heard a lot of different approaches. Sometimes you go to a college and look for interns because everyone at college needs those credits. What are some places to find someone, and how can you tell if someone actually is any good at what they're talking about? So tell me a little about your process. I'd love to hear it.
My process is pretty much in your face, and chances are you couldn't use it anywhere else than what I'm going to tell you about. So there's two places that we recruit. One, I don't know if you have Craigslist on your island out there, but it doesn't really matter because Craigslist is the only place I could do what I'm going to tell you right now, because it would never get accepted anywhere else. However, when you hear the results of it, you'll say, oh, that's worked out pretty good. So I write these really rotten, mean, nasty ads, but it does have a very specific subject line or title to the ad or headline. And here it is: paid internship. Paid internship. And the reason that works so great is because prior to me doing that, I would get these 55-year-old MBAs that are out of work that can't even turn a computer on wanting to work for me. And I don't need that. I mean, I need young tech-savvy kids. I'm known, one of my nicknames is the king of ka-ching, because my email goes ka-ching when an order comes in, and we got to turn it off. It gets so annoying after a while. And so I wanted that to be my ringtone on my cell phone. And so I thought, it's going to take me all day to figure this out. And one of the girls in the office came in, took my cell phone, went away for 10 minutes, came back, and it goes ka-ching. Do I know how she did it? No. Do I care? No. Does it go ka-ching? Yes. All right. So these young people have all these skills. So I don't get the 55-year-old MBA applying. No MBA is going to apply for an internship. So that wipes them out of my trouble. I don't have to, sit there and listen to them knowing I don't want them or any of that. So I only get young people. All right. Then the first part of the ad is building up. Okay, work for an internationally known, big shot, multimillionaire internet guy, and you're going to learn all this stuff. And I'd list out all the stuff they're going to learn, email marketing and all this stuff. But then after I suck them in, the bottom part says, guess what? If you're a worthless slug, you're going to have great opportunity here. But if you're a worthless slug that doesn't care about your work, if Tom doesn't throw you out of here on your head, the other good employees that work here will. and so you couldn't get away with that anywhere except Craigslist. But guess what? Everybody that applied for the ad were the type of attitude, I'll show this guy. I care about my work. I'm good at my work, and I'll show him. I've had people here 13 years, 14 years from, all came from that ad. So that's the first place. Second place is we recruit from high schools, not colleges. Colleges, there's too much stuff going on. The kids have too much autonomy. They're all drunk all the time. No, I don't need that. So high schools, but here's the one lesson, Jonathan, you can't just go down to the high school and say, I want some kids. at least that's what the officer told me at the police station. So what you do is, first of all, you go to a blue collar high school, not a ritzy neighborhood high school, because those kids have more money than you do and they don't need you. You go to a blue collar high school, and you call them up and you look for the guidance counselor, or sometimes they have a computer club, and they all know who the little geeks are, okay, that just are crazy about the computer. And these kids are thrilled to death to have a chance to work with computers rather than cutting grass or flipping burgers, all summer. So you got to tell them you have jobs for evening, weekend, and summer, because you can't compete with the school year. And like I said, these guidance counselors know who all the little geeks are. You want the kid, Jonathan, that's never going to get a date in his entire life. That's the kid. That's the kid that you want. And I tell you what, I recruited these kids. In fact, the first kid that I recruited in 1997 just sold a company called Pluto.tv. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's kind of like a Hulu or Netflix. I started this.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I started him. He just sold it for $340 million to Viacom. It's all in Forbes. You can see he wrote an article on Forbes giving me credit for starting him as a thing. So you're doing these kids a favor, showing them entrepreneurship right off the bat. And they're so tech savvy in 2 seconds. Like I said, this girl did something for me. It would have taken me all day to figure out as an old fart, so that's, and here's the thing. I heard one of your other guests talking about, longevity with people. Yeah, my Craigslist people are older. But the younger people, my psyche is the time we spend together, I'm going to do enormous things for you. All right. I'm going to do enormous things, get you breaks that you would have never had in a million years and teach you stuff. But you're going to do great things for my company while you're here. And then I'll replicate it into the future after you leave. See? So I don't expect them to get a gold watch. People don't stay 30 years anywhere. They're lucky if 30 minutes some company doesn't buy you out and kick you out. So that's my two things. Craigslist with really mean, rotten ads, and then recruiting young kids out of high school that are super tech savvy. And then I test them out. Everybody's on a 90-day trial, and I don't give them keys to the shopping cart right off the bat, and I want to make sure that they do it on time and was the work good. Doesn't mean it has to be perfect, because I'm trying to teach them. And then the thing is I don't pay the remote workers by the hour. I pay them by the job, because you and I both know they'll be on TikTok 99% of that hour and give me 1% and still charge me. See, so that drives me freaking crazy, because I grew up in a time where work ethic meant something. Well, that's not so much nowadays. So I only pay them by the job. If they're supposed to put 5 web pages up, well, I can see that. If they did it, is it on time and are they acceptable? Boom, then they get paid. So that's my hiring process.
You just dropped so much gold. I'm like, what question do I ask next? I'm like, which one do I want to talk about? I want to talk about all of it. I will say I'm a huge fan of Craigslist. It's how I started getting all my first clients, because everyone on Craigslist is a buyer.
Right.
No one goes to Craigslist to research. So I love that. I love the stuff about college students and high school students instead of college students. I love all that. That's gold. And what I want to dig into is this idea of process, and when you hire someone task-based, because what I found very interesting when I worked in traditional companies is that they only measured hours. And I said, well, I remember last place I worked was a top 20 university, really, really, really well known. If I said the name, you'd know it instantly, top 20 university in America. And I remember they gave me a job. They said, this will take about 6 months. And I was done in 30 minutes. And the first thought was, oh no. Because one of my weaknesses is I don't know how to slow roll.
Right. Get the job done.
I was like, there's someone here that spun a 30-minute task into 6 months. That's a gift to do that. They basically were doing 1 minute of work per day. And I ran into a lot of problems, actually ran into a lot of conflict with my coworkers, my bosses, because it made them all look bad. Because they gave me these assignments. They would give me assignments they thought no one could do. They go, we want to do a class trip that specifically has to do with this company, and your budget is $0. They go, you can't spend a penny. And I found a factory that used something made by the company they wanted me to use that was near us. And they go, well, how are you going to get there? You can't charge for transport. I go, well, it turns out we have a satellite doctor's office that's part of our school right next door to it. We can take the shuttle for free. And my boss was about to flip the table. And it took me 2 hours. And I'd already spoken to the manager of the factory. They go, we don't give tours. And I explained who we are. They go, we'll give you a tour. And that's the problem with measuring time, because you don't reward success. Like my employees, I'm very clear, as long as our tasks are done for the week, first thing people always ask me is, do I have to work the same hours as you? I was like, I don't care. I care if you get the job done, if it's done well. Here's how I'll measure you. These are the tasks I want done. If the tasks are done on time, if you're ahead of schedule, then I'm happy. Like I have, after we record this episode, it goes to the video editor and it goes to Tanya, who is more organized than me. As long as the episodes go out in time and I'm able to tell you a week in advance when your episode is coming out and send you clips that you can share or not share, but you have the option, then I'm happy. That's a metric, right? And I like to be weeks ahead of schedule. I don't care if she doesn't work Friday through Monday night. She only works Tuesday through Thursday. Okay. I don't care if the job is done. But traditional companies are about, the clock, stamp in, stamp out. And it's very good that you're talking about this, because this is a mindset that people miss, is that what's more important, the hours someone works or the job getting done? And I wanted to dial into one other thing you said, which is very important, is that employees don't stay forever anymore. It's really something I believe in, something I notice. I do have some employees that have been with me 4 or 5 years, but I don't expect them to be with me for 20 years. But the important thing is that when you bring someone who's really good at something, they take their expertise and turn it into a process, or it's written down, and then the next employee can then implement it. So you did mention that. So can you talk a little bit about that, about how you record a process or a system so that when someone leaves, the knowledge isn't lost with them? That's like the big fear, the brain drain. Oh no, the one person who knows how to upload the podcast is gone.
So you don't write. So you said write it down. All right. But I want to talk about one of the greatest types of software ever invented on Earth, and that is screen capture video. I have been using that since the year 22 years now for all kinds of purposes, made a fortune with it, but or give somebody a written process. Not especially in today's atmosphere, that, people are more visual and they want to see stuff. So we do a screen capture video of the process, and we can do a transcript if need be, but it's so much faster for me to sit down and, say, okay, here's the piece of software. Here's how you open it. Here's where you click, and here's what you got to watch for. And, let me know if you have any questions. It's done, instead of writing out a whole thing that's got to be grammatically correct, because I don't want to look like an idiot. So I just do a screen capture video and save them, and the new guy or girl sees it, or whatever they happen to be nowadays, and comes in and watches it. Oh, I see that. Yeah, no problem. And boom, it's done without me having to watch them like a hawk. That's it.
Yeah, that's great.
Simple.
I mean, I know I said write it down too. That's how I do everything now, is that if you try and write it down and you miss one step, the whole thing breaks down. But if you shoot a video,
if you miss the step
that you didn't realize was hard is always in there.
It's not going to work. And you say, oh, geez, I forgot. You got to do this. Don't forget this. And then they see it right there. See? So that's pretty much it. Nothing fancy about it. Although the software has been developed over many years, and it's amazing. We use Camtasia. There's ScreenFlow and there's other ones, but Camtasia is it's amazing how easy it is to create a video record now. It used to be much harder. Like in the past, I'd have to record the video, edit the video, render the video, upload it. Now there's tools where I can record and automatically uploads and gives me a link, which I love, because that's how I give feedback as well. Like if someone says to me something, oh, is this working? I can shoot a 2-minute video or like write a 20-minute email. So I do love that. It's a really great piece of advice. Yeah, Loom is out there now. I think I've heard you talk about Loom.
I'm a huge Loom user because for exactly that reason, is that I don't have to go through those other processes of saving it, rendering it, and uploading it. That always takes extra time. And especially now, the internet's gotten so fast. My new house, the internet, we have gigabit internet here. I'm like, what? I thought we wouldn't have that. My internet last year during the day was 0.01 megabytes. So I only had internet from midnight to 6 a.m. So I'm used to like working with and I call it the paradise tax. Everyone's like, why do you work at night? I'm like, oh, there's no internet during the day here. I don't know where it goes, but when the sun comes out like a vampire, it's gone.
Crazy.
Now they installed the internet, and the guy says, yeah, the problem is all of your Wi-Fi devices can't handle internet this fast. So when I run a test on my computer, I'm not able to get the full speed. I was like, this is insane. It's so fast. And that's why I love exactly the ability to shoot a video and send it to someone very quickly, because it's often hard to explain something where showing it like a picture with 1,000 words.
Yeah, there's so many nuances that it'll be back and forth with 5 emails rather than 1 2-minute video. So that's what I do.
I love it. This has been a lot of really good advice. I appreciate you giving us your time. I know your time is very valuable. Yeah. Well, I don't want to take all your time. We try to keep the episodes manageable for people, short attention spans. I try to keep them under 30 minutes. I know sometimes I see a 2-hour episode and go, oh no, I don't have 2 hours to focus. It's longer than Star Wars. It's only 90 minutes. But so where's the best place where people can learn more about you, learn more about what you do, how you help people, how you develop systems, how you hire people, all this great stuff you shared. I know people want to hear more from you.
My podcast called Screw the Commute, based on the fact I never had a job. Actually, I did apply for a job once, Jonathan. It said it had a 401k. And I thought, man, that's a great starting salary, $401,000. But I can get that job. So screwthecommute.com is, we're at 630 episodes now. And, there's at least 150 to 175 of them that are training complete training, just me telling you how to do stuff. And then the rest are interviews. So that's probably the best place, screwthecommute.com. It'll lead you to I have a mentor program I have at school and all that stuff.
That's great. So guys, that's screwthecommute.com. We'll make sure to put it in the show notes and to put it in the link below for wherever you're listening.
I got a freebie for him too. If you want to give him something that's called How to Automate Your Business.
Yes.
And just one of the tips in this book has saved me. We figured it out, 7.5 million keystrokes. Just one of the tips. So it's how I run the whole show on cheap and free software and stuff. So it's at screwthecommute.com/automate free. And you can pick up a copy of that for no charge.
Perfect. I love free books. It's one of my favorite things. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. This was a great episode. It was really cool hanging out with you and hearing about all your adventures. And everyone, after you've listened to every episode of my podcast, go and listen to Screw the Commute. It's got over 600 episodes right now for you to enjoy. And that's awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Making that first dollar online doesn't have to be daunting. I've got you covered. Get my free guide on how to make your first $1,000 online right now at servemaster.com/1K.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Serve No Master podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next week with more tips and tactics on how to escape the rat race. Please take a moment to leave a review at servenomaster.com/iTunes. It helps the show grow, and more listeners means more content for you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.